Universities and business schools across the country are recognizing the importance of bringing Indigenous matters into the classroom. However, unfortunately, many instructors don't know where to begin on how to do this. The Overdue Diligence video series was developed to help instructors bring Indigenous matters into the classroom, to guide discussion, to stimulate ideas, and to prepare the next generation of leaders for the careers. Hi, my name is Bruno Dick, and I'm a faculty member at the Asper School of Business, and I'd like to introduce you to the Overdue Diligence video series. It's a series of videos that we produce to highlight exemplary Indigenous organizations and issues facing the Indigenous business community. It's a video series that was started because I was talking to my colleagues, and we all knew Indigenous matters were important for the classroom, but we didn't know where to begin to bring them to the classroom. So we applied for a fund in the Teaching and Learning Enhancement Fund at the University of Manitoba, who provided us with some monies to develop this video series. The first few videos in the series were produced by Indigenous MBA students at the Asper School. In this particular video, we hear from leaders in the business and Indigenous community as they reflect on what sorts of topics they think are important to bring into the business school classroom. Their insights can help us to prepare our students to successfully engage with the Indigenous community throughout their career.
I think that it's important for all students going forward to know Indigenous history and the connection that can be made today for our economy. The Canadian economy is made up of many parts, and the Indigenous contribution, I think, is not well understood.
Canada's history and how it was founded on a partnership based on a relationship of enduring mutual obligation, which is what a lot of old people would call the treaties, which are, and a lot of elders also call the treaties economic agreements. So as kind of an understanding of the treaties as sort of the fundamental building blocks to Canada and where we all fit in Canada based on the treaties.
You can't put 100% into and concentrate on all the stuff that, the injustices that have been done. I know that a lot of people don't understand things like we didn't get the right to vote till we're, 1960s. We couldn't hire lawyers. We couldn't hire accountants. It was against the law. So how can you run a business? I mean, you can't graduate, university without giving up your treaty status. So I think you take 20% of whatever and you make sure that people understand the challenges that we've had as people. But you don't just go to the past. So you give them a basic understanding, but then 80% should be positive on how we're going to move forward.
As a business student, you have to recognize that the opportunity is there and start figuring out, okay, what's the value in this opportunity? The brightest business minds in Manitoba have begun to do that, and they're working towards that. So it's also figuring out, okay, kind of the delta between what we know and what we need to know. How do you work with Indigenous communities? How do you deal with the duty to consult? How does free, prior, and informed consent come into a discussion on building a shopping center? How how does, who do you deal with in a community? Do you go straight to chief and council? Do you go to the economic development people? Do you go to the elders? Those are highly relevant and highly sought after skills that aren't readily available in Manitoba. So your typical Asper student, if your typical Asper student graduates the program without knowing that stuff, you're at an immediate disadvantage.
So one of the things that has become very clear is that the natural resource industry has to come to terms with how to work with Indigenous people, because a lot of the resources that they would like to develop are on Indigenous land and under Indigenous control. So how do you do that? So this kind of understanding you can bring to the workplace. You can take it from school and make it very worthwhile for a company that needs to have its employees up to speed in this area.
I mean, when you look at resources, when you look at, like, if you just look at, lumber alone, forestry, 16% of the forests in the world are in Canada, and over 80% are on Indigenous land. People can't do anything without engaging us. Same thing with most of the, the resources in Canada. Plus, we're natural stewards of the land. I mean, we call the earth Mother Earth, because that's how we feel about the earth. I mean, we feel it's our mother. So if you can think of anything that's more closer to you, there's nothing than a mother. And that's how we feel about the earth. So we're not going to jeopardize, the air or the land or the water at the cost of just making money. There's ways to do it. We're not opposed to economic development. I mean, we're really not, but we're not going to do it at the cost of, poisoning the environment for the rest of our the generations. We look at everything in seventh generations to come. So we're great stewards to have on a team of any kind.
If you look at Manitoba as a whole, if we want to reach our potential as a province, we have to fully engage with the Indigenous community. Business Council Manitoba, as an example, identified that as their key priority in their 5-year strategic plan, was developing the Indigenous workforce and Indigenous education, increasing our graduation rates, increasing opportunities for jobs and kind of workforce development. So further things, I think, within the curriculum, in both the BCom program and the MBA program, I think there needs to be case studies that involve really complex Indigenous issues. So whether it's unsettled land claims, Cap-in Barracks would be a perfect case study. Duty to consult, issues where half the class is going to come down on one side and the other half on the other side, and there's no right answer, but that you can actually work through some really challenging issues. I think that needs to be part of the curriculum in both programs.
I think young people in Asper would benefit from encouragement and also seeing how important understanding who we are as Indigenous people in their schooling, by seeing some of the administration and the faculty also join in on that journey. Because it's one thing to say it's good for the students, and then if you don't follow through and show them how important it is to you, the message, I think, is watered down. So I think it's really important that it's a whole community affair. It's a whole community of Asper participants, students, faculty, staff, who are part of this exploration that will make a difference today and in the future.
I hope you found those insights informative, inspiring, and stimulating, that you will also bring more Indigenous matters into the classroom as you go forward. Best wishes.